Hey everyone, welcome back to the Not Just Politics podcast. As you can see, we are not in the studio. We are currently at Gettysburg College for the 2023 Braver Angels convention. For those who are not aware, Braver Angels is a partner organization of BridgeUSA that is dedicated to politically depolarizing America to a bit of an older audience than BridgeUSA usually goes for. The following is a conversation with Manu, Meel, and Irwin. Manu Meel is the CEO of BridgeUSA and the host of the Hopeful Majority podcast. Irwin is the COO of BridgeUSA. We sat down to talk about the work of bridge building and crossing the political divide, as well as a little bit of life and just some other stuff that I honestly don't really remember at the moment. So I hope you really enjoyed this one. It was a lot of fun. And a huge shout out to Ross and Manu for being very generous with their time and giving us an episode. Enjoy. Okay, there we go.
Okay, now we're recording.
There's too many white men on this set.
Yes.
There's too many white males. I feel outnumbered.
It is. Even
fine.
I'm starting to feel a little uncomfortable. Like, what are we doing here?
White male.
For the record, I was just the token for this conversation.
No, you were not.
Yeah, that's the only reason we brought Manu in.
Yeah.
Is,
Yeah, Carson just wanted to have the conversation.
It's one of the... Oh, no. Token. It's so messy.
It's all right. I understand.
That's not why we did this.
I understand.
promise.
As he smirks.
yeah.
Well, thank you so much for doing this.
Yeah.
This is such a pleasure, seriously. I know you guys are really busy, so I really appreciate this.
Thanks for having us.
Very cool.
I think it might be the first time he and I have been on a podcast together. So
That's very cool.
Yeah.
We did it first.
This is groundbreaking. This
Yes.
is groundbreaking. This is historic.
yeah.
Yes.
And importantly, thank you for leading a bridge chapter. Like everybody's busy, but I mean I appreciate you having us on.
Yeah.
Oh, we've been wanting to do this for a while.
Yeah.
Sure. So I'm very happy that this is. I was thinking like it would have been cool to be like, oh, episode 100, like, but that's so far.
No,
that's so far away.
What number are you at?
23.
Okay.
25. Yeah. I was gonna
Okay.
say, yeah.
Hey, 25 is a good number.
Quarter century?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. And hey, what is it like? It was. I don't. This is like a source trust me, bro moment, but it was like 93% of podcasts quit after episode 3.
Oh.
So you beat it.
I'm at episode 6, baby.
We're in like the top 3% or whatever. That
Wow.
Like,
It's
we
huge.
did it.
Wow.
That's huge.
Good. Congrats.
And I don't know why that is. I guess like people it's like, oh, I didn't get 1,000 views. Like just scrap it or whatever. Like I don't get it.
Well, I think there are a lot of people that think that they have something like incredibly insightful and unique to say, and like people should talk and people should express themselves. But I also don't think people understand how long it takes to like build an audience.
Yeah,
like it's forever, right?
Yeah, it takes
like
so long.
You're clawing for it. So.
Yeah.
We like just now had a couple episodes break 100 views, but like that's it.
Good for you.
Congrats, yeah.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, Ross ego checks me every day, when it comes to, as you said, like, having something profound to say. I mean, I wake up thinking that. I only have profound thoughts.
You do have profound thoughts, though. You do.
It does.
Yeah.
You do have some profound thoughts.
I've never said anything unprofound.
That's true.
I mean, starting the podcast out with the white male comment.
Yes.
Yes.
Sheesh.
So insightful. The political commentator of this generation.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, you guys said. Honestly, I'm kind of surprised no one said that to us. So far yet at Point Park, no one said that.
Hey, common myth. People think that bridge builders are squishy modders that don't tell the truth.
No.
That's true. They do.
This is
That's the
hardcore.
one
It's for
that
real.
drives me crazy.
Yeah.
Not to do like a cheat. Not to like plug someone else's stuff. But like, you guys know who Tim Urban is?
Yeah. Yeah. Tim Urban's lovely.
Yeah, it's like I read his most recent. I listened to his most recent book.
Yeah.
What's Our Problem?
Yeah.
And the one cool thing that he said was like that. You talk about this like the temperamental extremes thing, like the vertical axis. He talked about that, but he just called it like high rung thinking and low rung thinking type thing. What I thought was cool is he was like, we need to elevate centrism to a vertical alignment because it's up top. Like I think moderate is a better term for someone that's in the middle politically, but centrist is more of like he called it a plea for sophistication, which I really liked. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that book was great.
We have to be loud with nuance, right?
Yeah, we
like,
do.
I think it's really easy in our political environment to go to just quietly, to a friend or something like, oh, maybe it's like not quite as simple, not quite as, straight up and down or black and white, because all the political commentating is like oh, well, this is the right thing, like, full stop. Like,
Yeah.
I have the right answers, and it's very simple. And it's usually not that simple,
No.
and so I think we have to be nuanced, but, like, in a very loud way, right?
Yeah.
Do you think we kind of feel? Do you think we don't do that because the extremes are so loud that we think like we need to combat that by being quiet in some ways? Like maybe that's why we're quiet.
I don't think so, actually. I think it's because nuance doesn't hit that, like, dopamine button.
No.
Right? You don't.
For me, it does, but like,
Fair enough, and we need more
Yeah.
people like that, right?
Yeah.
But I think it's really it gives you a lot of satisfaction to say, no, you're wrong, you're an
Yeah,
idiot,
yeah.
right? It doesn't give nearly as much satisfaction to say, well, I appreciate your summing your points. These ones I feel a little bit iffy about. Here's where I disagree, right? Like it just doesn't. It doesn't hit that same kind of animal urge to yell and to be angry, I think.
And this might just sound like simple, but Ross says this a lot, but this work, the work of people having higher rung thinking, like it just attracts kind people.
it does.
Like the most bitter people I've ever met, Carson, are just, I mean, they're prisoners of their ideology.
Oh,
and
that's so true.
and it's not prisoners of their ideology. Again, there's a difference, I think, between having, as Ross is saying, like it's not like, it's not mutually exclusive to have passion and conviction and just be a kind human.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's a big thing. Is like, I think people want to be comfortable in their thinking, and that just means like if you think X, then you think Y, and then you put you in a box, and then as soon as you see something break that, then it shatters people's whole reality. And I think they just don't like to get outside of that box. Yeah. But I do though.
Yeah,
Fun.
I think that's why we're all here. I mean, that's
Yeah.
why there's 600 people, almost 700 people,
That's
in
insane.
Gettysburg. Like,
That's so many people.
Yeah.
it's a lot.
I don't know what I was expecting, but when I heard 600, I initially heard 600, and then there's an additional 70. Like that's nuts.
Yeah.
That is so crazy.
And there's going to be more. It's going to get bigger and
Yeah.
bigger. The movement's going to grow. Do you remember what you sent me? I think this was last week or the week before, but it was a tweet about, it was basically, so this guy on TikTok was like, my pronouns are USA, and then an eagle screeches through. And I'm not trying to start a culture war here, okay? I'm not trying to start a culture war here. But, or it might have been somebody else in our team.
Yeah.
But the reason I bring that up is like, I mean, that's funny. It might be very offensive to some, but the point is it gets the click.
It does.
Now you sitting here saying, "Hey, let's talk to each other.
Yeah.
Let's have a conversation. Let's dialogue." Like, so we gotta be really effective in this, Russ, and figure out how to be charismatically nuanced, to
Yeah.
be loudly nuanced, to recognize that this work is often seem like it's meant for just a bunch of dudes who are privileged.
Yeah.
Like this work is for everybody.
Yeah. Well, I think like I would put you in that category. I listened to Monica Guzman and her family yesterday for the breakout session, and that was just the coolest. Like that was so cool, and like I think like being, what did you say? Charismatically nuanced. Yeah, like John Wood Jr. Like that's another one. I think of people in that category.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree.
Well, and I think another part of it is, I think we're often like bashful, or maybe just don't say it enough about like how rewarding it is to have a nuanced conversation with someone you disagree with. Like, it's riveting to go back and forth and to hear a thing that you disagree with and then hear reasons and actually think about it, right? Sure, it's like, it's I feel like the current kind of extreme political culture fits really in line with the instant gratification.
Yes.
But if you know anything about how humans work, instant gratification is very empty, right?
It is.
That long-term hard work that you eventually get gratified for, it's very much like this work. And I think we have to be like honest that it's a joyous time
It
to have a
absolutely is.
tough conversation.
Yeah, I think maybe it's because I spent my junior and senior year of high school, or no, I spent my sophomore year and junior year of high school in a pretty deep conservative echo chamber.
Where'd you go to high school?
It's called Valley High School. It's a small town
In what state?
Outside of Pittsburgh.
Okay.
Yeah, and I just remember, like you said, like you want to win. It's like the instant gratification thing, and I think my sensors were so tuned to that I had to like scale it down before I realized that there was more fun in a nuanced conversation first. Like it was so in the like winning idea.
Yeah. Yeah. And so many people are, and I get it too. I mean, if you care about a thing, right? If you think that something's best for the world, like there's a real valid, like genuine way to want to win, right? And that shouldn't be cast aside. But what we have to do away with is winning for the sake of winning, right? Dunking for the sake of dunking. Like, so much of it is like, let me show how stupid this liberal is, how stupid this conservative is. It's not about the policy. It's not about changing the country. It's about the feel-good thing where you know you've made someone else look stupid.
Yeah. And let's say, like, you know, let's say somebody that, like, wants to win is like, yeah, but, like, this is just wasting time. What do athletes do if they want to win? They watch the film of the team that they're about to compete against. They Michael Jordan used to watch, you know, Karl Malone's film all the time. He used to watch the contemporaries of his era, study them. Kobe Bryant used to study LeBron James like no other. Winning in your echo chamber is useless. It's like winning in practice.
Yeah.
To win means you engage in that argument. So let's say you do want to be an advocate. This will help you be a better advocate, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. Ooh, that's cool. Winning in your echo chamber is like winning in practice. That's good.
That is really
things.
good.
Profound things.
Someone write it down. Write it down.
Statement.
Tweet it. Tweet it. Live tweet it.
I think that's what it is. It's like a team game. And it's like, I think it's almost like, it's like a bad game of Monopoly. It's like a stupid game where like the American people are just in jail the whole time and they can't get out because like all of the conflict entrepreneurs are just like walking around the board like making all this money and the rest of us are like, what do we do? Like, there's nothing.
Oh my God. I want to make
you're just winning for the team. Like you're just, and then if you don't play for the team, they just kick you out.
Yeah. Well, and it's there's actually a lot of parallels to sports that I haven't like really thought about. I mean, obviously, like, you know, there's the classic saying of like politics is a contact sport, right? And like, there's that kind of stuff. But I think the other part of it is that basically we're just like sitting in practice, like pretending like we're winning, right? We're like in the huddle and we're like, we're beating them so bad, guys. And you're like, you're not on the court, man. Like,
you can't even see the other team. Like, you don't even know they're winning. You're like, I know that we're winning because we're huddling harder than they are. That's what it is. Oh my gosh.
Funny. Yeah.
Well, that is funny. I'm not a sports guy, but maybe I need to be just so that I can start making these parallels.
You live outside of Pittsburgh and you're not a sports guy?
Not a sports guy at all.
Okay, see, this is why the image of our work is just a bunch of squishy moderates. You know, you just don't understand that. You just don't understand the fixation of tribes, Carson.
I guess not. I
just
guess
don't get
boring.
it. You don't get it.
I was in a. This is just a random thing. I was in a sports podcasting class last semester, and I had someone tell me that I was a loser for not watching the Super Bowl. I was like, why? I don't care.
Because you're in a sports podcasting class.
It was. We were saying it in a joking manner. It was structured to be really whatever.
Oh my God, are we having an argument?
Yeah.
No, I don't think so. But they were like, what are you doing? You're not watching the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I just don't really care.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. You're allowed to not care. You're wrong for not caring, but.
How dare you not care?
Yeah.
There are people in my city that are hurting because you don't care about football.
Exactly.
Do you remember the earliest days of Bridge? I mean, you talked about like how actually like joyful these difficult conversations are. Like some of our best moments used to be us sitting around the couch with like some of our friends like John Ryder,
man.
John Ampelor. Shout out to the homies, the
man.
OGs.
We'd go for hours. Like
Hours.
3, 4, 5 hours just sitting there talking about like American interventionism, right? And like, it sounds kind of boring, but then we start poking at each other. Oh, what about this? Oh, you didn't consider, you know.
It's so fun.
Yeah.
I have to give another shout out.
Please.
I shout out Claire like every other episode of this show. Like it was the running joke that like I had a friend that worked at All Sides, and then that was like the mysterious thing, and then eventually that got exposed. But that was like the running joke.
Yeah.
But Jeremiah, the president of the Pitt chapter,
Jeremiah Cutright.
we go off. Yeah, we go off. Yeah. He comes over to my apartment, and we'll just like hang out, and we just go off for hours about who knows what.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he always has something for me. Like
Now, can I be the devil's advocate for a quick second?
Absolutely.
So, somebody might listen to us and be like, all right, y'all have a conversation about, let's get hot for a moment. Let's take
Sure.
an actual cultural war issue, right? Like, let's say you and whoever had a conversation that was really heated, really interesting about
Guns.
Guns. No, let's get identity. I want to do identity based, because where I'm going with this is like, I think some of the biggest critiques that people make when they listen to stuff like this is you have no stake in that fight. So what I mean by that is like, let's say we're having a conversation about the LGBTQ community. Now, I don't know your orientation. I know Ross and I are very close friends. Now let's say him and I are having dialogue about the LGBTQ community, and Pride Month.
Yeah.
Him and I are going back and forth. And how do you guys like what's your thought on, and I think about this a lot, like what's your thought on like when somebody comes and says like, you're not a part of that community, you have no stake in this fight. So of course you can have that conversation. It's easy. Like saying watching basketball film is one thing, but that's because Michael Jordan's identity is not defined by the basketball court.
So they're asking me like, so essentially the argument of like, who are you to speak on?
No, not even who are you to speak on, but that you can have this conversation because you sit in a position of say privilege, that you can critique, let's say, quote unquote, Pride Month and have a dialogue going back and forth with somebody, but that's because, let's say, you might not have anything to lose in that conversation. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Or let's have a conversation about policing. And let's say you and I are not African American.
Yeah.
And somebody says like, it's easy to have that dialogue with you guys because you don't have anything to lose in that fight.
Well, I think it's right that it is somewhat easier when it's not directly about an issue that affects you. Like I think I'm completely willing to admit that, right? But there are issues, I have friends that have been through the criminal justice system, right? And I'm not going to tell some random person that they can't talk about that because they haven't experienced it, right? Because we live, ideally, in a democracy. That's the whole point of our system, is that we as people get to elect leaders that determine a lot, right? And so are you going to say, well, you can't, if you don't have these experiences, you can't elect the police chief, right? Or if you are not a member of the LGBTQ community, then you can't think about their experiences at all. Like, we would just have a completely fractured society. And I think, yes, it's a little bit, I'm a straight white man. I'll come out
So am I.
and say it.
Just
Yes.
Get that. I mean, I think people already know that, but
Yeah.
what are you going to do?
It's a bit easier for me, but also we live together. Like, we are in this nation together, and the idea that you can only ever speak on something that you are directly affected in means that we would not have a democracy. We would basically have councils of the experts, right?
It would be like a Chappelle Show skit. Like, what was that? Like the race draft? Like each group would just be like in their own thing. I guess my answer, I don't know if this answers the question, but this is always what I've thought, is that like, because I'm in a position where there's no aspect of my identity that can get attacked, in some ways I feel like I have a higher obligation to jump into those conversations, because there's nothing that people can say to me to knock me out of it. And then if people are being unfairly represented, I can try to give them a voice, or I can try to figure out why.
That's interesting.
That's what I've always thought, is like, there's nothing that anyone can, like, what can they say to me? That I'm a like enlightened centrist? Like, okay, fine. Like, I don't like the stereotype on that thing, but like, there's nothing people can really say to me.
Yeah. Well, and what social movements have ever been won without the support of people not in that community?
Allies.
Right? You have to have allies. Like suffrage, like you had to have men as a part of that, right? The civil rights movement, you had to have white people, right? Like, this is, and of course now it's just white men. Which
Laughing at suffrage, but have you seen the old Jimmy Kimmel skit before he was on his current show?
Oh,
and
no.
he was like, this was like years ago, and he was on a beach somewhere, and he was like, hey, like, this is a campaign to end women's suffrage. Women are suffering, and we're gonna stop it. And they were like they had like so many signatures, but the old lady was like, stop! You know what you're signing? I get to stop them. They got so many signatures.
oh man.
I would be lying to you if I told you I had any idea what the hell you're talking about, because I'm the most culturally illiterate person in the world.
Okay.
The amount of times that I can call back cultural references is nil. But again, I do have profound comments.
Yeah, and you
Clip that.
And yesterday you discovered you discovered that I might be less in tune culturally than you. 'Cause
Yes.
you're
Do you know this guy hasn't watched?
any TV show ever.
Okay, Ross makes
Question
fun of me
mark?
all the. He hasn't watched Breaking Bad. He
Oh.
hasn't watched Game of Thrones. He hasn't watched House of Cards.
Man,
Please don't leave the show.
Man.
Please don't leave.
And you're gonna ask Gen Z kids to watch this show, and you don't know the basics, Carson.
But he knows some washed out comedians.
Okay.
Cultural reference from 2003.
Washed out comedians.
That's
Ooh.
you freaking.
Like the year after I was born.
What a boomer.
Yeah. Well, I'm online enough, I think, for the both of us.
Boomer.
So
You
that-
guys ever call me Boomer before on this show? That's fire.
I call him Grandpa Meel sometimes. So
Gavin.
Ross does call me Grandpa Meel.
he is Grandpa Meel.
I have a typewriter.
He does.
You have a typewriter? That's honestly kind of cool.
In me and all my brown privilege.
It's really cool if you're the one typing.
Yeah, it's
And if you're the one in the house where click, 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 it's not as cool. It's still got a little appeal to it. But
Speaking of typewriters, I wrote a couple of opinion pieces for our school newspaper, and I would have Claire help me edit them. And for the entire time I was through grade school, high school, I was always taught to double space after a period whenever I typed. She cut that shit out real. She was like, "It's not a typewriter. It's not a laptop. Cut that out real quick." And I no longer do it. I've stopped. I'm a reformed double spacer.
I only type with my index fingers.
So do I. I can't.
Just
I
like this.
Oh, only exclusively with index fingers.
the public school system has failed you both. like, what did we go to typing class? What did you do in your typing class? Did you not just get
I didn't have a
absolutely?
typing class in high school.
You didn't have one?
No. In grade school I did, and I
in
just
grade school, yeah,
wasn't
fifth
like,
grade.
I never like got there. I never fully figured it out. So now I just use like random fingers for random keys all the time.
You should watch a YouTube video. There's a right way to type for a reason.
There
It's
was, like,
it's efficient.
One summer I was like, I'm gonna teach myself how to type. It's
Yeah.
gonna happen.
Yeah.
The only time in middle school, actually no, there were many times, but the one time that I almost got held back in a class was typing class. and which makes sense to everybody that knows me. So I got a C minus.
Okay.
Two quarter, because our middle school is quarters, 2 quarters in a row. Because so basically typingtest.com, shout out. You're supposed to type your speed, right? And you figure out your speed words per minute. And I would cheat, so I would like look at the keyboard. So nobody told me that for test day she would cover the keys with like this with this.
Oh no! But what about the second quarter?
Zero improvement.
I can type on my phone without looking at it, and I'm just fine.
Yeah.
But I can't do it on a laptop.
That's a reality. I think like for most people our generation, like
Yeah.
you could do a lot of typing on
Yeah.
your phone. Like
You don't even need to know how to spell.
I know, and I used to be a good speller. Like, Mom, I'm sorry, but I've lost it. You know, like
you're rinsed.
yeah, I'm rinsed. I'm gone.
Wow.
I had to ask someone to spell check purposefully. It's literally just purposefully,
You know,
but
every once in a while that happens.
Yeah.
And Carson, now people are freaking writing their essays on ChatGPT, dude.
ooh.
I've still never gone on it. I will never use it.
Oh, you are.
You
a
were
boomer.
reifying your boomer image.
Yeah.
Somehow I've met a man more boomery than me.
Wow.
This is a real existential
You just got
crisis.
out-boomered,
Dude,
bro.
I thought I cornered the market. I thought I freaking cornered the Gen Z boomer market.
Man, you should go. It's a useful tool.
The new competition. I got it.
Yeah.
Make sure you like and subscribe to BridgeUSA.
I've outboomered.
Make sure you support our organization
Yes.
and
obviously very-
the 2 boomers in it.
The two boomers.
This is actually it's a senior support group.
Yeah,
We're doing elder care right
Ross
now.
is intervening. Ross is intervening.
You're just like coaching us. You're just trying to help.
know.
This sounds like a 2000s comedy movie where it's like we're just 2 old boomers and you're like, I'm gonna get you guys up to speed on something.
And we have the glasses too. Oh my god.
Do you guys know what emojis are? Or?
yeah.
Have you heard of the new app Threads?
Yeah, I don't think I'm gonna use it. I don't
Boomer.
I don't go on Instagram.
Boomer.
Everything I do.
Yeah.
Everything I do.
Kind of pigeonholed you.
Can you pass me my water, sir?
Um,
Thank you so much. Yeah, no, I seriously, I'm not gonna go on Threads. I don't know why I would use it. It's just gonna turn into Twitter 2.0.
Well, Zuckerberg said people are going to be nice on it. I don't know. Has he seen his own platforms? Like, have you ever been on Facebook? Like,
People are going to be nice.
people are nasty, right? I also heard that if you create a Threads account and you try to delete it, you delete your whole Instagram account. So, like, you better commit to Threads.
It's gone.
I think it's just tied to your Instagram account. So, I mean, you can just have a defunct Threads
Speaking
account.
of Zuckerberg, who you guys got, Elon or Zuck?
Zuck by a million miles. Like,
Probably. He's younger, right?
have you seen the meme about like their height, their weight?
No.
And then it's like Zuckerberg, like trained martial artist, right? Elon built like a 1950s fridge.
Hey, what happens when a 1950s fridge falls on you, though?
You're dead.
Boom. Elon, baby.
Could be tough.
So he
Elon.
just needs to like
Money's on
just
Elon.
he needs to like
He's
knock
got
Zuck
to
down.
whale him. He's got to whale him. Freaking just slobber him.
I know, well, he did. He's been training MMA. I've seen on Instagram.
Jiu-jitsu, yeah, I think.
They've both been. Elon's been doing it.
Oh, yeah, with
Yeah.
Lex Friedman, right?
Yeah, and Zuck did it too.
Yeah.
But then Elon's mom came in. Did you see that?
Wait,
No.
Elon has a mom?
Yeah, Elon's mom.
Is he? Wait.
Yeah.
It was like, can you imagine having to tell another billionaire you can't fight him because your mom said no? And he's like, what is Elon like in his?
I'm shocked he's a human.
I know. I'm shocked.
Which one?
Okay, to be in fairness to Zuck, I don't know if y'all watched him on Lex Friedman recently, but he actually does seem more like a human. I will give it to him.
Yeah.
He does. He seems like he's gotten some coaching at least, or something. But he seems much more normal.
Okay, so if Elon pins him in the corner, does the lizard robot thing come out? Whatever it is,
You got to find his off switch.
Is it like a fight or flight mechanic? Like it just kicks in and then he's just gonna go crazy?
Maybe.
That would be funny.
You know,
Something.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh no, I don't know. Zuckerberg posts a lot with his like kids and stuff, and then obviously idiots on Twitter, you know, like, oh, you're married to this woman and stuff, and like, he's like has a great, beautiful family, and he actually spends time with his kids. Like, I think he might not be a lizard person, or maybe he's just playing it off really well.
Zuck?
Zuck.
But Elon's kid's name is like Archangel 12.
It's like A
XAE.
12.
I mean, I don't know. Like, if Zuck is a lizard person, then Elon's a Martian. Like, there's some. Yeah. There's
I
something
don't
going
think this is a battle of two humans.
No.
And that's why it has to happen in the Coliseum. That's the best. That's the only place this can happen.
on. Exactly.
It would be so.
Coliseum.
That would be hilarious, and they actually would raise a lot of money.
They would.
I would buy the pay-per-view.
Yeah. Oh.
I might go.
Dude, we do a live reaction on this show. We record it. We record our reaction live of watching the fight.
I think it's going to be a short fight. I know Elon's bigger, but like,
You really think he's going to take him down that quickly?
well, Zuckerberg has been training Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, I think, for like the last 2 to 3 years. Like,
Oh, I
there's
thought it
a
was shorter than that, but you might be right.
well, he just won some
I'm a boomer.
tournament.
I don't pay attention to the internet or anything on it.
Yeah, he just like he won some tournament a couple months ago. Like,
I did see that.
I mean, maybe they were all plants. Maybe it was his whole PR team,
them
right? Like,
beat up your PR
just
team.
whooping them. But no, I there's a big difference between someone who like knows how to fight and a big guy. And yeah, maybe Elon lands a punch, but I my money's on Zuck.
Fair enough. I've been asking people that here, that are young enough to, that are not boomers like myself, that actually pay attention to what goes on in the world.
This needs to be a new trending thing, honestly, on your podcast. I genuinely am shocked by your boomerness, but I will say one thing, which is that, like, so I think about this a lot. So like Elon Zuck, this is we talk about this a lot at our Bridge chapters, right? Like you can have a discussion about Elon Zuck. It'll warm people up. Nobody's gonna fight over that. Like it'll get intense, but it'll be fun and chill. Is a hot dog a sandwich? There's a lot of different like topics, right?
Yeah.
Why do you think that we're able to keep our emotions? Emotion is the wrong word to say, but like, why do you think those discussions and debates, right? Like, or maybe a debate over AI or ChatGPT.
Yeah.
It does not like inflame some like identitarian war on Twitter, but like, but we suddenly when we talk about, let's say we're not talking about AI and the potential like extinction of humanity, but let's say like we're going to talk about guns. Mm-hmm. Suddenly it becomes incredibly not passionate because everybody's passionate. That's okay, but it becomes just like a shit show.
I came up I call it the 3Ms.
Okay.
This is my running theory. And it's tough because 3M makes the sticky notes, but, well, don't sue me, 3M.
Not sponsored.
Not sponsored.
By anything.
Not sponsored. Not yet.
A show of the people.
So the 3Ms that I think make discussions like this really tough are morality. And what I mean by morality, I'm a little, it's a little cute with the 3Ms, but what I mean by morality is like a religion, right? Or a belief set. And like, if we read different, like the Bible or the Quran, like you're not going to be able to come to a thing. Like if you believe your God said this thing, having someone else say, no, that thing's wrong, like you just can't get past that. So the first one's morality. The second one's mortality. So I think if it involves death or violence or danger, that is a big one. And then the third one is me. And I think it's if you are in that room and you feel like we're talking about a thing that directly affects your life, you're much more prone to be active. And it's a little cute, but
I was going to say, I think as soon as death gets involved, people get very, because they all have a story.
Or their identity or me. That's interesting. Morality, mortality, me.
Yeah.
You've got profound things to say.
Yeah, you absolutely do. We'll put you on the...
I've also got incredibly unprofound things to say. So if you need like bad jokes, I can do that too.
There you go.
They can't all be tens, like my fellow boomer over
Yeah,
here.
dude. You
My
freaking
fellow...
boom hard.
Boom hard.
But I think so.
That's interesting. Morality, mortality, me. I'll can I share an anecdote? So yesterday night we were sitting in a Braver Angels debate. Shout out to Braver Angels.
Yes. That's where we are, by the way. We're in Gettysburg.
Woo!
In Gettysburg. And as Ross said in his keynote conversation yesterday, unlike the Constitutional Convention, we have AC.
Yeah, so I think
we have AC.
Good point.
But yesterday night it was a Braver Angels debate on is America the greatest country in the world?
Yes, I was there.
And you were there? Mm-hmm. Okay. Ross and I showed up halfway through. So this middle of the debate, this African-American man stands up, and I just won't say his name, even though he did an amazing job, but just for his identity. So he stands up and he talks about how he doesn't think it's the greatest country in the world. In fact, he says that the greatest generation that we often say in the world, in the United States, the World War II generation, he said, you say that the World War II generation was the greatest generation in the world. My grandparents couldn't drink out of the same water fountain.
That's a good point.
At the end of that debate, it's reflections. And this woman stands up, this elderly woman stands up. Yeah, I think you might know where I'm going with this. She stands up and she says, my son was a Purple Heart veteran that has now passed away. I trace my legacy back to the Daughters of the American Revolution from the Revolutionary War. My father fought in World War II, and yet, on behalf of my family, and she was a conservative, on behalf of my family, I want to apologize to you for my family's sins. That is powerful.
Yeah, that's very powerful.
And like, that needs to be happening at scale. Not necessarily the apology, but the spaces where people feel so vulnerable, but trusted, and it's open. Like, that shit's important.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that was
needed.
A really cool moment. I thought that was very cool.
It was an incredible debate, and there was such cool passions in it. There were a lot of people coming at it from angles you might not expect. Right here at the Braver Angels convention, we're wearing like blue or red tags right around to indicate conservative and liberal, because we have like a perfect balance, right? Of people that identify as liberal and people identify as conservative. And there are liberals saying it's the best country in the world, there are conservatives saying it's not, right? And there are people of all different races saying yes and no, all different genders, and all of them with such passion. And the thing that really united them, though, which is beautiful and always I appreciate about this space, was they really gave a shit about this country.
They cared.
Yeah.
Whether they thought it was the greatest country on earth or the worst, they cared about how it conducted itself, what our direction was, and what we stood for. And I thought that part, that common belief, but the vast differences that were over top of that, I think was just It was powerful to watch.
And Carson, I just underscore one thing Ross said there, which is passion. So many people think that when we're having conversations like this, when we're having debates like this, discussions like this, that this conversation, dialogue, bridging, listening to each other is mutually exclusive with passion. That you can't be passionate while being a bridger. That you...
Yeah.
Of course you can.
Biggest misconception.
What we're talking about is our fight is not about what you believe, it's about how you believe.
Yeah. Exactly.
As you said, the temperament. Tim Urban's right on with that. It's a y-axis.
Yeah, I've always
temperament.
said that, like, I genuinely don't care what someone's left, right, it doesn't matter to me. I don't care. I care about the vertical because then you know how to deal with somebody. Like, then you know how to approach them.
How many fascists do you know that are curious, open-minded, and willing to be challenged?
I'll stop you before those. I don't think I know any fascists.
Fair point.
I don't think I know that
Historically.
Oh, historically, I can probably name 0.
Because the point is that if you know, people will say like, okay, well, Carson just said, you know, I don't care what people believe on the left or right. I care about what wrong of thinking they're on. And then they're going to be like, well, okay, so are you fine with authoritarians? There aren't.
Can we pause how many times people get, oh, so you would talk to a Nazi?
Yeah.
I've never met one.
Yeah.
By the way, I would. I'd sit down with them. I have nothing to lose. Like, why not? Why wouldn't I? Just to see where they're coming from. But like, I've never met these people. I don't know where they are. They exist, I'm sure, but.
Well, they're not coming to bridge discussions. Like, we're like, hey, you're going to talk to people you're different from, right? And you're going to have to be respectful to them. Not a good place for a Nazi, actually. Kind of known for being assholes to people they're different from. And if they were to act like a Nazi, they'd get kicked out of a bridge discussion. Now, me personally, I'm with you, Carson. Especially as a white man, like, might as well have that conversation, see what's going on, right? But yeah, it's so funny. People jump to that. They go, "Oh, so Nazis." So you, but part of the problem is if you're in your echo chamber, your media has convinced you, right? If you're on the left, that 40% of the country is Nazis.
Yeah.
Like, people actually believe that there are like people like, you know, Goose Steppin' and Highland, like, all throughout the American South and rural landscape, right?
Yeah.
On the flip side, like, your conservative media has convinced you that, like, that there's these giant riots or that everyone in the city is, like, you know, like, way off the deep end as far as, like, gender or, like, you know, and it's just not true. And so part of what we have to do is actually get people into these spaces, right? Because then you realize, like, hey, that person might have voted for someone I really hate. They're not the evil devil that my media has created for me that I think of them as.
Do you know the story of Daryl Davis?
Yes. Yeah.
Do you mind if I talk about that for a quick second?
Yeah.
Because
I think I mentioned him a couple times.
I mean, Daryl Davis was an African American man who got 100 Klansmen to drop their robes.
Yeah.
Now, the power of conversation is that it acts as a disinfectant. It's immunity against radicalization. It's actually, this is how you counter radicalize.
Yeah.
But I will say one thing where, and this is point number 2 here, and this is where we might differ a little bit, maybe not, is now I don't think I'm in a position to tell an African American person to be Daryl Davis. I don't think that, you know, as you said, you're willing to sit down and have that conversation. I actually think you should, because the point of an ally, the point of that dialogue, I mean, if you can't, who can? And how do you challenge? But I would say that I'm not in the position, and I don't think we are necessarily in the position of telling that disadvantaged group to have that conversation.
Of course.
We are in the business of creating that space of trust.
Yes.
So that people feel productive and safe enough to get into that brave space.
Yeah.
But I think you're right on. And one other thing I would just say is, I think a lot about, like, where do you draw the line? You know, like, we talk a lot about this, like,
100%.
where do you draw the line? And 2017, when Bridge started, we had launched that chapter after the Milo Yiannopoulos protests at Berkeley, and we would be asked this question all the time, like, where do you draw the line? Do you allow Nazis in the conversation? What is hate speech? Mm-hmm. And to Ross's point, Do you know how many times we've ever encountered that type of ideology in a bridge discussion?
I was going to ask this. It's still
6
zero,
years.
right?
Zero.
It's still zero, right?
Yeah. 100%.
Now,
still zero.
it might be online, but online's a different game. There's a lot of flack incoming online.
As Dave Chappelle said, Twitter's not a real place.
No.
That's right. That's
Twitter's
right.
not a real place.
Twitter's not a real place.
It's not.
Dude, you know this stat I came across recently? And don't quote me on the exact percentage, I'm not sure, but 80% of all user-generated content on Twitter is produced by 20% of its users.
Yeah.
Yep.
Something like that.
And then I think on top of that, it's like
They found
95% is created by 30%, right? So even that next 10% only create 15. Like most people are just passive observers, or you're liking, maybe you're retweeting.
bots, right? Didn't they just find out that like there's
Huge amounts of bots, yeah.
Big bot energy.
not to get into any cultural stuff, but Elon told me he was going to fix that.
He did,
That was like the first thing he said he was going to fix. Not to get into that, but like they're still there.
yeah.
Is there a lot more bots? What do you think?
I don't know. I don't have
What's
the
your take?
numbers. I could make.
Well, you are a boomer, so.
I could.
Sounds like you're actually on Twitter though.
I could make. I'm not on Twitter.
Okay.
Never set foot on Twitter or TikTok.
Oh.
Yeah.
Why do you care about the bots?
I imagine Instagram. I am on Instagram.
Okay.
Imagine there's bots on Instagram too.
Probably.
I guess like the idea of it though, like the idea that. Well, you were there for the Jonathan Rauch breakout session. I went to that because my other one got canceled apparently, but so I went to that, and it's like the fact that I get uncomfortable by the idea that any foreign country can just make bots that can then shake up
Yeah.
our politics.
Yeah.
That's not great.
I mean, I'm on Twitter like too much. I would say. We won't get into specific numbers necessarily.
Screen time's off the.
Yeah. We're not talking. I'm not looking at that.
I'm no better. I
Yeah.
guaranteed. No better.
A lot of our generation, is there a lot. But what I do find myself doing though on Twitter, is I see a really stupid response. I go click on the profile, and it seems kind of run of the mill, kind of standard and stuff. And they're just saying stupid stuff all the time and replying specifically to a bunch of big accounts. And if I don't like what they think, I'm like, that's probably bot, right? No, a human wouldn't do that, right? And
Gotta be.
so I don't know how many bots there are or what those numbers are, but it is scary to think about just, Russia and China, armies of bots.
I do that too, but sometimes if I'll see stuff on Twitter that makes me so upset that I think that can't be.
Yeah.
This person can't be real.
Yeah.
And I hope they're not.
Sometimes they are. That's the worst part where you're like, oh man, this is a journalist that people know and
Yeah.
some crazy backward stuff. Though I'm loving the community notes thing. I do actually appreciate the community notes if you're on Twitter. It's not a perfect system, but it's very bridgy. I want more of that because you have to have the community notes are created by a group of people that disagree on facts often, and if they come together to agree on a community note, that's how it gets posted. And so they actually are pretty bridgy in that sense.
Cool.
And I'd love to see more social media platforms kind of like what we call this, you call Braver Angels debate, a collective search for truth, right?
Yeah.
Imagine if the whole world was online and instead of flaming one another, it was a collective search for truth. Isn't that crazy?
I wonder, would we have any of our current problems solved? Just genuinely curious. Would we, even if we put all of our brains together?
So let me say one thing on this, which is I feel like there's this weird notion where because we haven't solved all of our problems, we're terrible.
Yeah.
I mean, as long as humans roam the earth, we will not have solved all of our problems. Unless you live in a society of gods, it's just if your standard is, of course, the standard should be perfect. Our standard should be perfection, but stop feeling demoralized because instead of getting 95% on an issue, we got 65%. Because
65%.
Hey, that was my grade in typing class.
I don't love it.
And then second time around, it didn't even improve.
It's like the SAT. Take it once, whatever score you get, it's not going to get better the second time.
Yeah.
So whatever you get in typing class, just hope that it's.
Do you have any siblings?
One, I have an older brother. Yeah.
Okay.
He can type really fast.
Nice.
He
Long
got all the
fingers?
typing. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yep.
No, they paid attention in typing class. I don't think it's about the length of your fingers. One quick thing I want to say on that though is like, we have to in that like fight against human nature. Like, you guys ever had a goal, right? Like, whether that's number of viewers for a podcast, right? Listeners, or whether that's a certain grade in class, or whether it's a video game, like, oh, I'm gonna rank up, right?
Number
like,
of words typed per minute.
exactly.
Huge.
Your WPM, man, and
You're whip 'em.
you're for months or weeks or even a few days or hours, you're like, oh man, I'm so excited to get to this goal. I'm so excited to get there. Like,
Yep.
once I get to 100 listeners, like, I'm gonna feel so good, right?
Yeah.
How'd it feel? Like,
Now I'm like, well, we should maybe just set another goal.
Yep.
That was my immediate next thing. Is like, let's
It's
get,
human nature.
this is the human condition,
point.
right?
Yeah, like, let's just
Great point.
And
get something
so
better.
we have, I mean, people may dispute this. I believe we have thousands of years of history of progress in humankind, in the way we live, the way we treat each other, like whose extended rights, like we have gone a long way, right? But because it's not perfect, it's terrible, and that is it's killer for the hope that we need to like
Yeah.
actually solve our problems.
Not to bring up that book again, but that's like in Tim Urban's newest book. The first page of the book is a picture. Have you seen the way that he draws his pictures? By the way,
I have. He's like a cartoon.
It's so good.
Yeah.
The whole book is
Smart.
full of just the goofiest drawings. But the
Smart.
first page is a bunch of there's 1,000 rectangles on this picture, and each rectangle is one page of our story. It's 250 years, and recorded history is like the last 6 pages, and the entirety of the American story is on page 1000. So the whole point of the book is like, if we're gonna step onto page 1000, we can't be cocky.
Context.
Because the stakes are way higher. And that's the crazy part, is like we haven't really been working towards progress. Way back then was like, let's get enough wheat to like get through the winter.
Yeah.
And now the last couple of pages, we went from
That's still my goal.
Huh?
That's still my goal. Are you freaking
My grain
what's-
silos.
Yeah, what's with you and just ostracizing me in this conversation?
Didn't mean it like that.
Just because I don't fit your conception of the world, you know.
He's just storing his grains, man. Can't hate on that, Carson.
Huge grain energy. Dude, I'm a big fan of Kansas. Sorry, go back to your thing.
I've been to Kansas.
It's very grainy.
Where was I? I don't know where I was.
Man.
You were at the fact that
we're on
progress, the
thousandth
goalpost
page.
changes.
And I think that, like, obviously I'm not thrilled with the fact that these problems aren't solved, but a part of me is like, but, like, it's like we're getting there. Like, it's
Yes.
we're at least moving. Like, we're not stagnant. Like, it's 2 steps forward, 1
Now
step
look, again, I'll play devil's advocate for a second, right? Somebody's
Sure.
going to say that's because you can afford to go 2 steps back. You know, let's say I'm an African American in this conversation, and you say, hey, it's all right. You know, be patient. Be all right with 2 steps back.
yeah.
Now, again, I bring that up because I think it's important for us to constantly make the argument to the people that are least likely to listen.
Yeah.
And I'm curious what y'all would say to that. What I would say to that is the story of progress, the story of America, the story of our country, the story of society has always required us to share. We share this place. This place is all of us. And the question is, moving forward requires to bring everybody together. And if we don't create change that is lasting and sustainable, it just flips back and forth. You know, we live in this odd cycle today where, you know, people are like, we need change right now and we have to do the most sweeping thing. Little do they understand that you're only president for maybe max 8 years. And then the next administration comes and overturns it all.
Yep.
And it's just, the fact is, what we're saying is it's not be patient, I would say, with injustice.
Of course.
It's be patient with each other as humans.
Yes, that's a great way of putting
Be
it.
patient with as Dr. King yesterday, we had Harry Boyd. He was the field secretary of Martin Luther King. He like heard Martin Luther King's speech, March on Washington speech, the night before he spoke. He heard him practice it the night before he actually gave the speech of March on Washington. And he talks about how Dr. King's definition of love was that we are all worthy just because we're made in the image of God. That's it.
Yeah.
We're all worthy.
Yeah. I mean,
Agree with that.
it's a tough one, and yeah, it's not patience, right? It's not patience because of injustice.
Yeah. And
What I do think is real is that, like, we live in an age of intense cynicism.
Yes.
And cynicism, like rampant cynicism, is like just as bad as having no care at all and thinking everything's going to work out. Like,
Yeah.
you shut people down. Like, we have to acknowledge that things are bad, can be better, right? But we have to have a seed of hope. If you ever want to change anything,
Yeah.
you have to believe. And I think when we think, well, we haven't fixed it all, it's all totally gone to crap, what's happened to a lot of our generation is saying, well, I'm not going to care anymore then.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because there's no chance.
Demoralized.
Yeah.
Yeah, completely. Yeah, that's tough. I don't like, and I guess I get that you could get forced into being cynical just by your situation, but it feels terrible. Like, I don't like being cynical about anything. And I guess sometimes does that mean like putting on a false face even when you do feel cynical? I guess because you want to show it sometimes, but like being overly cynical is just not good for you, I don't think.
Well, I think it's important with human emotions to be able to feel them fully. And if you're feeling cynical, like, let yourself do that. What you shouldn't do is become cynical for the week or the month or the rest of your life, right?
Just for the sake of it.
Yeah, or for the sake of it, or to drive clicks, frankly, like to build your follower base, to just be a cynical a-hole. Let yourself be cynical every once in a while. That's fine. You know, and find a friend, vent to them, but you're going to have a terrible life with little friends if you're cynical all the time.
And I would also say that cynicism makes you more easily susceptible to manipulation.
Oh, yeah.
Being cynical makes you much more susceptible to hate. It makes you much more susceptible to extreme ideas.
Yep.
It makes you much more susceptible to being a victim of someone's desire to get power. What I mean by that is, like, if you told me, Carson, that your entire audience is a bunch of cynics. Sorry.
They're a bunch of boomers. Like,
They're a bunch of boomers.
probably. I don't know.
Like, I know exactly what to say. It's easy. If you're somebody that's cynical and you're only looking at what's wrong with society, you're the easiest person to manipulate.
Yeah.
Make yourself complex. Make yourself difficult. Make yourself an individual.
Yeah,
Be someone.
I agree. Yeah, I think that whenever...
But don't be a boomer. No, sorry. Just kidding. Just kidding.
Yeah, when you get into... I think cynicism isn't the only one, but when you get into a place like that, where you're kind of governed by one emotion, you fall prey to... Because to me, I think the entire like outrage machine just preys on people's like fear.
The outrage industrial complex.
Yeah, it preys on their fear, and it makes them, and it wants to make you angry. So I guess if you're living in that, you're just gonna get swept up by it.
Yeah. I did actually, when we were talking about that, I had a brief moment where I could like see us in a podcast, and I was imagining like what it would be like, and it just felt so easy. It's like,
Yeah.
do you know the liberals are out to get you? They want to take your kids. They want to make them gay, right? Like, that's so easy.
Wait, what are they doing to the frogs?
They're making the frogs gay. Shout out Mr. Jones.
The friggin' frog.
See, it's like, do you want to be the fodder to somebody like that? Like, come on.
Probably not.
Yeah, you know what? That should be it. That's how we fight cynicism. You were the fodder to Alex Jones.
You are?
Dude,
You are?
by the way, this is the type that when I said charismatically nuanced,
Yeah,
that's what it is.
that's yeah.
You know,
Sure.
do you want to be Alex Jones's fodder?
Yeah.
Be that way.
Oh my god.
No. Well, and something that I hear a lot, and I've experienced once or twice, is you see someone that's a big national news media figure, right? Mm-hmm. And they are just on there and like, oh, you should hate those people,
You should be
right?
angry.
Right? You should be angry. And
I love the way you did that. Sorry.
and then
Dude, it's like I don't get. I'm sorry, I don't mean. But I
No,
don't get,
no.
Like they sit like this and they're like all proper and they're just like, and they just tell you why you should be angry.
yeah.
And then they go back to their mansion in the Hamptons.
They go back to their mansion
Yeah.
and they're much more pleasant people.
Yeah.
Right? They are playing a bit because it is their job and they are making money off of you because you are cynical, right?
Mm-hmm.
And because you're trapped in this thought that there's 50% of the country that is totally evil and irredeemable. They're literally driving around in Lambos because you are just like lambs to slaughter. We click
Yeah.
and we like and we comment.
Dude.
Well, that's the one thing. This is like such a small. I don't think it's a small gripe with YouTube, but I hate that like capitalizing all of one verb just gets you like more.
Oh,
like,
I do
why? Like
Well,
why?
play
do
the
because
game.
it gets me the clicks.
Play the
Yeah, I
game.
mean, again,
It's because you're making yourself easy. It's like I put out this, Carson. I'm like a social media amateur, also known as baby influencer, right? I'm like new on the block.
You
All right.
yeah. You could have a boomer tries Instagram.
Yeah, exactly.
For the first time.
It says Boomer Books and Broken Shoulder. That's my biography. And so basically,
Huh?
Wait, no, it does not. Does it actually?
I might have changed it like a week ago
What, on Instagram?
on Twitter.
Oh, okay. I don't know your
Well,
on Twitter.
yeah,
Okay.
but the point is like Ross has been like such a good friend in that like he's like get out there, just say your stuff and whatever. I think it's honestly so that he can escape the responsibility of it. But
Completely.
yeah, so
Completely.
So basically, as I am the public social media sacrifice of BridgeUSA, I made this video like 3 weeks ago that was like, do you think I'm dumb? Like I know how to grow this channel quickly. I know these people. You want me to grow this quickly? I know exactly what to do. Come up with the craziest thumbnail. To your point, capitalize the verb in the subject line of a video. Take down Tucker Carlson or Rachel Maddow or whoever you hate. Talk about how much of an idiot you are. And what good does that do?
It doesn't do any good. But also, what should this title be? A couple of
wait.
boomers absolutely destroy.
Yeah, Twitter
This other
addict.
guy.
Twitter. I was thinking Twitter addict eviscerates boomers.
Dude.
Who's a real boomer?
Oh, yeah.
Who's the real boomer?
with
Who's
like
the
a
real-
big like stock photo, like, right? Splash art.
An old person holding their phone like this with their glasses like
Yeah,
down here.
yeah.
Holding, you know what I mean? Doing one of those.
By the way, okay, we've been throwing so much hate at boomers. Shout out to all the old people out there.
Shout out,
Shout out.
especially if we're watching
We're
this.
trashing all the people at this convention.
Oh, I
Shout
know.
Shout out. Look, RFK once said.
What?
RFK once said. RFK. Do you know who that is?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah, Robert F. Kennedy. Yeah.
Junior, not junior.
not junior.
Not junior.
Not junior.
Okay.
Robert F. Kennedy once said,
Yes. What do you say?
"Youth is not a time of life, it's a stage of mind."
Stage of mind. That's right.
That's right, Carson.
I can't believe I forgot that. That
Well,
was only 2 days ago.
There
That was yesterday.
That was yesterday. Oh God.
There was some profound speaker I got to watch here at the conference
Me?
by the name of Manu Meel,
Oh, nailed it.
who said
Like,
we need the curiosity of the young and the wisdom of the old.
Yes. True.
And I think especially
So much to learn.
in our polarized climate, right? We do have to look back and ask people like, what was it like when you explored ideas with your friends instead of being quiet and going on Twitter to
Yeah.
rage about it? They've got a lot of knowledge about that and what it felt like and what kind of social environment made that possible. Now, do they know how to download Google Maps? No.
No, but they've just lived more
neither have I,
life.
so, like-
No, well, I'll be honest. For me, like, okay, I make the joke because, frankly, it is funny. But I will say this: like, I like have deeper. I'm somebody that operates a lot in respect, and I grew up in an Indian household. Like, older folks have lived longer than us.
Yeah,
we
yeah.
have. There's no matter how much. I mean, we will be old one day. So let's operate with like, some humility.
Us faster than him.
Us faster than we're already there. That's because as in my Hindu tradition, you and I are on like maybe our 7th life.
Yeah.
Perhaps our 8th.
Okay.
We're close to enlightenment.
This is good news.
This is huge.
This is great news.
This is huge.
I thought it was just getting old faster
This is
than
huge.
everyone else, and I was just culturally unaware.
That's why Ross is so cynical all the time.
Old people know what's going on. Like,
they have more life experience than we do.
Yeah.
well, and even like I find myself more and more. It's like, man, like sitting on the couch with some friends, right? Like talking about it, like. It's a lot better than like, raving at a bar and stuff. And like people, like a lot of old people have these like hobbies, right? And like, I'm like, let's get hobbied up. Like they know what they're doing. It's a happy life.
For the record, like we would not be here. I know BridgeUSA would not be here without our mentors. Hands down.
Yeah, I believe it.
Not here. Sorry, you were going to say that. I like it's very important. I mean, we can joke about it as much as we want, but like, and I want to keep joking about it, but like we would not be here without our mentors. And importantly, like some of the most inspiring people I've ever met are 85 and lightning sharp, curious. Yeah. I'm like, I aspire to be that. Like, I want to be 85, 86 and be thinking and be active. Mm-hmm. Now I can see you wanting to make a joke.
Well, before you do though,
it's because he's a boomer.
I'm not making a joke.
The other thing is, Braver Angels skews a bit older, right? And we're here at the Braver Angels convention. And I've met so many amazing people.
So many.
Who are
shout out
insightful, who are kind, who have great wisdom, but also who are lifelong learners, who are here discovering stuff, getting active, right? Like, please clip this and put this before we make all the boomer jokes. I feel like we really...
In all honesty, I think it's so inspiring to hear people here that are in their 60s or 70s and said, "Oh, I started doing this in 2016." Like they didn't even grow up necessarily doing this. They got in it for something.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I love hearing that.
Yeah.
I love hearing all the stories. Okay, wait a second.
This is a good conversation.
Yeah.
This is cool. And also, I had like questions written down.
Dude, no, this is good.
And I'm okay with it because honestly, this was way better.
And honestly, like you don't have to. I think we just roll with that.
Yeah,
it's a great recording.
It was. Maybe.
And you can include my white comment.
That's staying.
I think you start with that.
Everything that we recorded stayed.
Yes, and I think like you should run with the entire thing.
Yeah.
Everything, all of it.
All of it.
Okay, so how much time do we have left?
When do
you guys want to get out of here?
I would like to eat. I'd love.
When does dinner start?
I'm a big fan of
It's
food.
currently 6:23.
8 minutes ago. Oh.
Dinner starts at 7?
I thought it was 6:15.
No way, it starts at 7. That's too late.
Yeah, I think it goes till 7:15. Yeah. How about like till 30?
Sure.
6:30?
Yeah. Okay, we'll go through a couple of questions here.
Okay.
You have questions?
I did make questions. I did.
Are you a lifelong learner?
I try to be.
Good.
That's good.
I try.
That's good.
Well, you haven't lived much life to be lifelong yet, but
No, I haven't. Okay,
How old are you?
I'm 20.
You see, I'm of the wise old age of 25. So
Yeah.
He's as old as this episode.
Well, I hope he's not putting out one per year, but yeah. We work really hard on production.
Dude, Gavin and Christian are freaking working.
Dude.
Shout out to guys.
I lock him in like a room and I'm like, 1 year. Get the episode out.
Make it perfect.
Set him to work. Yeah. Okay. So I gotta know. I've been thinking about this for a long time. What metrics are we gonna look at in 10 to 15 years to see if we made an impact that we were trying to make?
Who's we?
The bridge building community.
Bridge building community. Man, it's a great question.
I don't think we're impact. Sorry, keep going.
So, there are some very actual specific academic measures that I'm most interested in that we're trying to bring to Bridge, some of which we already have and that will hopefully tie in nicely with other literature being created in the space. One is a value for pluralistic norms. And it basically means, do you as a human being value the right of someone you hate to protest, right? Or to petition the government, right? Like these kind of fundamental things that you need in a pluralistic society. Do you care about them? Another one I think is intellectual humility. I think if we can make the country more intellectually humble, we will have done a really good thing. Okay. Third is just respect and understanding for our opposites. But that's like some very specific scientific research. It's a tougher question, I think, about like what does politics look like at a national level? Like, I mean, maybe the metric is just you go on Twitter and not everyone is being a total dickhead to each other.
And if I got like tactical for a second in terms of operations, shout out to Andrew Weinzierl. I mean, he does.
Yes.
He works so closely with Ross to like do all of our data and back end, and you'll be proud to know that this past semester we engaged over 3,500 young people across our chapters, across
awesome.
chapters like yours.
That's
We have 50 college, 20 high school. The goal over the next couple of years is to scale this movement. But to Ross's point, I think ultimately this is about societal norms. I think this is a question of norms. I think like if you ask me fundamentally, like what are we trying to change? I think we're trying to change the norms. And right now it is normatively beneficial. It is to your benefit to be an asshole.
Yeah.
Like I literally mean follower count online. I mean to be somebody that lives in the prism of your ideology allows you to gain access, profit, wealth, follower count, and it's because we're rewarding it. And so I think fundamentally, if we can shift that, that's huge. And to Ross's point of those measurements, I think those measurements are what get us there.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. So you were a pre-med student. You were
Business.
You feel like did any dreams die in any way? Like whenever you pivoted, like do you ever want to go back?
Dreams dead? I mean,
Like I know this is like you guys love what you're doing now, but I feel like do you ever miss it?
well, I mean, I get to work on kind of businessy stuff,
That's
like
true.
a lot of like kind of internal management stuff, which I'm a total nerd about, and I love like how a team functions and like how to make a good meeting, like which is a stupid thing to be nerdy about, but
That's cool.
I've been trying to take more time lately to just appreciate where we're at.
Yeah.
And like, for instance, we just had a retreat with our executive team and some of our part-time people, right? It was the first time we had ever brought 11 people out to a place together. And we had done a full day's work, right? Went out to dinner together. Sun was setting. And like, I was on a boat with 11 amazing human beings who worked their tails off that day
On the Mississippi River.
And it was like, oh man, I could have never dreamed that I would ever do that.
Yeah.
So I don't think no dreams are dead, but many are alive that I would have never imagined.
Okay.
That's actually the best answer right there. You know, it was funny on that Mississippi River, the sun was setting. There's this American flag. We're on the river. Us as a group got together, sunset in the background, photo was taken. The only thing that was missing in this photograph was just a freaking bald eagle coming and screeching.
Yeah.
That would have been freaking American.
That would have been the most American thing.
We're just missing a bald eagle.
You needed the bald eagle. Okay, I think I have one more here, and then we will get out of here. Well, where is it?
All good.
Do you guys ever struggle with, like, do you ever feel like you have to not give your political opinions because you kind of can't? Like, do you ever feel like sometimes you struggle balancing having your own beliefs and wanting to be vocal about them if you do, and then wondering what that would do to, like, I guess the brand, for lack of a better word?
Well, I work a lot in like how do we advise our chapters, right? And you know, so I mean, I've got a great team of people, some that you work with, right,
Yeah.
Carson, like Miss Haley Addison, right, is your
Yeah.
CDC,
Yes.
and they do incredible work. Andrew Weinzierl is one of those people, as well as some amazing people coming on part time, Jack Rotolo, David Olshinsky, and there are others that work at the high school level that I don't work as directly with, but. When you're talking to someone about how you're going to run a guns debate, like, you can't really say, like, oh, I'm raw Second Amendment or I'm super pro gun control. What we have started to do, though, which is great, is actually start to have more bridge discussions as a team.
That's good.
So that we don't lose that muscle, right?
Got
But I also I want to quickly just return to something you were talking about. Like, you are the one who has to be out and about because I don't want to, and he's right. Like, I think public eye is very scary, and so I just want to appreciate like you and especially you for putting your neck out there and you know, dealing with the hate comments and working your tail off to create a podcast. Because I don't want to do it, and I'm glad you're doing it. So
It's the only profound thing Ross has said all day.
when I thanked him,
Thanks. Buddy. No, I appreciate you. I love this guy. I mean, we would not be here without the team we have. I would just say, response to your earlier question, Ross is absolutely right. Dreams, so many new dreams are alive that I would have never thought were alive. I mean, I'm sitting here with you in Gettysburg, July 7th, having a conversation. I mean, that's cool.
Yeah,
this
that's
is
cool.
And then the to your other point about like, are we scared about political opinions? I want to quickly stay on this for a second. Let me ask you a question. Why do you think us sharing our political opinion might risk the brand?
That's a good follow-up. That's a good return question. I guess I was thinking in terms of how people, because I think one thing that I encounter, so like at Point Park, I was running the Forward Party chapter for like a year, and then not doing that anymore.
Shout out to Andrew Yang.
But yeah, I mean, seriously. And there's some people here from that team that I was able to speak to briefly. But we tried to do a collaboration event with our Bridge chapter, with our national security program about the TikTok ban. And when we got there, we talked to the president of that club, and we were like, okay, we're like a multi-partisan like discussion thing. Like, we want to give you guys and she was like, are you guys sneaky conservatives? And I was like, why would you immediately go to that? But I'm thinking like, so in that way.
That's
like,
what I wanted to get to.
Yeah.
This is how I know we will have succeeded in 10 years, is when your identity is not entirely determined by your politics.
Yep.
The only reason why you ask that question is because when somebody thinks that I believe one way or the other on, let's say, guns or free speech or criminal justice, that my entire moral judgment as a human is dependent on what I believe on that policy issue.
Exactly. Yeah.
We will have won when people's identities are appreciated holistically, when we as people are understood as nuanced beings, when you might hear my political belief in society but still be willing to take my input and advice because I'm on Team Human. That's it. It's as Dr. King said, you are worthy just because.
Yeah.
That's when we have won. We will have won when your identity is not 100% your policy belief, that in fact you are a nuanced individual with a complex identity with lots of thoughts. And so I hope that in 10 years, the answer to that is there is zero risk.
Right.
But I will be honest with you, there are moments where, you know, like Ross and I talk about this a lot, like where like it would be nice to, I sometimes feel like I don't even know what I believe because I spend all my time spending time in other people's shoes.
Yeah.
Which is tough. But I would say that intellectual wrestling, that intellectual grappling has put me in a position where I can probably argue what you believe better than you can.
Dang. Is that our viewers
Bet.
have been challenged? Yeah.
Bet. Take a policy issue. Bet.
Yeah.
At Manu Meel _ take a policy issue. Come to the Instagram. I'll do a live.
Do a live.
I will argue your position better than you can.
That's it. Okay. Yeah.
yeah.
I'll send my dad over. He doesn't have.
Dude, we're not trying to win in practice, baby. We're trying to win the game.
Yeah.
We're trying to win that game.
Yes.
All right, we'll wrap up here. Thank you both so much.
Yeah.
This was so fun. And
This was wonderful. Thank you for having us, man.
Thanks, brother.
Thank you. For
Thanks, Gavin.
coming
Thanks,
on.
Christian.
Of course.
Thanks,
Thank
Point
you.
Park. Shout out Claire,
Yeah.
Anthony, Edward, everybody that's here, Braver Angels.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everybody.
And thank you for starting this because like
The only reason it still exists is because people like you have decided to do
I
something
know,
about it.
Speaking of like a year ago, I didn't have my chapter. Like I would never have guessed that I would be doing this.
Yeah.
So, thank you guys.
Thank you, Chris.
Bye everybody.